Episode 12, November 5th, 2013. I haven't given you guys an episode in a while, but here's another one. There were only a handful of NBA games on yesterday. The only one I watched was Rockets Clippers, and that one was worth it. That one was a fast break scoring fest, especially in the first half, where I believe the Clippers reached around, I think, 76 points. But even though this game was a blowout, there are some important things to take away for the Clippers and the Rockets. First off, even though the pace slowed down significantly in the second half, the Clippers still managed to keep the lead and not just rely on lobbing fast breaks. And this is a testament to Chris Paul himself. He's not usually a fast break guy and works better under controlling the pace and slowing it down. He's very stubborn about that as well. And that second half worked well to his advantages, where he got several assists. He had 9 in the first half and ended with 16, I believe. Next off, what's surprising is the Clippers took a lot of great three-point attempts by several of their players. The ball was distributed between several three-point shooters, not just usually Redick or Crawford, even though Crawford did make 6 three-pointers. They got a lot of the three-point attempts off their guards driving in and kicking the ball out to the corner or even just the middle. One play I do remember in particular was Chris Paul had an open three-point shot, but passed it up in favor of a JJ Redick corner three, which is a much higher percentage shot. And even though Redick missed, that's a great presence of mind by Chris Paul to see a better open shot than even one he has currently for a better three-point shooter. Next off is, well, even though the Clippers have a very below average backup bigs like Mullins and Hollins, it was good to see Mullins make 2 layups on pick and rolls, and where he usually just camps on the 3-point line. But Darren Collison, Byron Mullins pick and roll is the least unlikely thing to ever happen, probably in consecutive games. So good luck getting that next game, Clippers. But the Clippers are realistically going to survive in the playoffs, they're going to need another backup big or have Mullins stop shooting three-pointers. And then what's he good for then, huh? That'll be up for the Clippers to look for a trade for a backup big in the middle of the season or a veteran big. Also, this was another marquee game for Chris Paul. It was his 31st 20 and 15 game, where he had 25 and 16, and I did some looking up, and he shares this category of many 20 and 15 games with the likes of Baron Davis, Andre Miller, Stockton, Jason Kidd, Gary Payton, Steve Nash, Darren Williams. Out of the 2000s era, so it's not too uncommon, but do you want... I think it's even more amazing that John Stockton has 82 of those games. He did play for a long time and had a lot of assists early in his career, but 82 is 20 and 15 games is quite the number. Coming into the season, a lot of people were expecting Blake Griffin to hit more of his mid-range shots and not necessarily just keep shooting them and bricking them or fading away as he does, but he hasn't showed significant improvement yet. But that's not the part of his game that's been the most surprising to me this season is his shot selection discretion and his passing awareness and how much it's improved. There were a couple plays last game where Blake Griffin was patient and he was patient waiting for the shot to come in more for looking for an open teammate. I don't think he had that many turnovers overall, but there was one play in particular. Chris Paul was driving in, got into the paint. Blake Griffin was there. He was chilling, but he got the ball in the paint towards right below the foul line, and he looked for a bit, and instead of just throwing up a maybe contested floater, he looked to the corner and Redick was there, threw a nice pass to him, and that's the kind of awareness that he has to consider. Should I shoot the shot or look around and pass? And that awareness adds a lot more balance to his game. And makes him usable even at times where he's not scoring and can still provide for his team. So to me, Blake Griffin is, of course, that myth where all he does is dunk has been long debunked, but he can still be very serviceable to his team outside of points and rebounds. And he still handles well on the fast break. He's reminds me of Kevin Garnett hands in on the fast break sometimes. But not with that length, of course. This game was also another confirmation of NBA trends, like when it's a big game between two good big centers. It does matter who gets in foul trouble first, and that sets a lot of the tone for the early game. For example, Dwight Howard had two quick, very quick early fouls, and he sat down for all of the second quarter, which did buried his team, unfortunately. Even Lynn picked up a lot of late game fouls, but what mattered more is Dwight's early fouls that allowed DeAndre Jordan to shoot much easier shots than usual. And even then, when Dwight was in the game, DeAndre was playing great defense against him. And that put the Rockets at disadvantage and opened the game up for the Clippers and pretty much sealed the deal for them. Next, I'd like to talk about some of the NBA games that are going to be on today. There's way more NBA games on today than yesterday, but I can't name all of them for you. But it's not going to be the most exciting of the NBA days. There's no matchups between big teams against each other, except there's several big teams like Miami and Indiana playing against teams that may not make the playoffs. For example, there's Miami, Toronto, or Lakers, Dallas, Phoenix, Pelicans. Some of those teams, like games like Phoenix Pelicans, may have young players dueling against each other, but it won't really matter then. But they'll be fun to watch. One game, it's not as important, but put in terms of perspective, the standings is Utah-Brooklyn. Even though it's early in the season, a lot of these records don't matter, where Miami's just above Toronto in the standings, and a lot of these teams will be in their true standings positions in a week or two. Utah is the worst team in the West at 0-3, and Boston is the worst in the East at 0-4. But so if Utah loses today, they'll be 0-4, and Brooklyn is currently 1-2. And if they lose, they'll be 1-3. And that puts them near the bottom. They're already third worst in the East, but it's still the early season, and they have time to get their team together, so it doesn't really matter. But to put a bit more perspective on the standing in the East. Another game to watch for. Probably one of the better ones to watch is Detroit, Indiana. It may not be as exciting and flashy as the Rockets Clippers with Chris Paul throwing half court lobs and point god scoop layups. It does feature some of the league's premier big men like Drummond, Smith, Monroe, and Hibbert. And currently, Indiana is the only undefeated team in the East at 3-0. So, will Detroit's big men give Indiana their first loss? We'll see. Now, I don't have League Pass. I've been using the trial, so I don't know how many of today's games I can watch, if any. Unfortunately. And last year I shared League Pass with a certain member of basketball team, but it's fine. I think I can get without it and maybe sometimes tolerate inconsistent quality of first row sports, but we'll see. I'll find ways. I still get both Clippers and Lakers games local, so I do have a lot of games to watch, and there's still games on national television. So I will adjust if I do not end up purchasing League Pass. So I wanted to briefly discuss something I received last week is the Killing Joke Batman comic in hardcover. I read it previously a long time ago, but I want to have it in the flesh, and giving it another read was a great choice. It's a magnificent endgame kind of story between Joker and Batman. One of them is going to kill each other, but they do have an interesting relationship of, can the Joker finally get Batman to see the funny side of it? And will he take that leap of killing that Batman has done so well to resist? There's a lot more to it and a lot more to read into the Joker's final joke that he tells Batman in the end, and it's mysterious, sometimes mysterious ending, but for those of you who want to read the Joker comic, purchase or read The Killing Joke. Now that we're towards the end of the show, I'd like to give a couple shout outs. Again, if you want shout outs, you can ask for me in the comments or tweet me at Hamad, twitter.com. Let's start with the first one. Zachary Bennett, or Zachary BD. He's a Wolves blogger, and he's also a curator of the Timber Pups blog, and he has even created a real life plushy cute demon Timber Pup. It's a cute version of a fluff Furby, but not as creepy, but still kind of demonic. Our next shout out is New Job Wes. He's a Hawks blogger and who has a terrific handle, and I hope he never changes it, please. Our last shout out for today is Baconville, the guy who gave me this razor. He wanted me to keep this video much shorter, and I think I've done that so far, and I'm working to make this show a lot better and up to production value. So please still give me some views and inspire and encourage me, y'all. Well, now that we're at the end, I'd like to tell you, where will the Blazers forward Nicholas be buried when he dies? In a tomb. Thank you and goodbye.